Hey there, I'm Zach and I like to make things for Ableton Live. In the last week or so, I've spent some time adding scale awareness to a handful of my devices. We've got MoireArp, Fibonacci Note Echo, Fractal Note Echo, and the ZS Faderboard 3. So let's start with MoireArp. That's where I started. And so we can see I've currently got the global scale set to C major, and I've got a MoireArp down here. I'm in scale aware mode. Let's set the note increment to 1, and I'm just gonna play a note C2. Things can get fun if I set the note increment to, say, 2. Now I'm going to go C, E, G, B. And the note unaware mode is still there, so we can set a note increment back to 1 and disable scale awareness, and then we'll just step chromatically. And so let's listen to that in a more sophisticated MoireArp setup. So here we've got it set up with 14 note layers. Each note layer is 2 scale degrees apart. We're in D Dorian. That's feeding this instrument rack with a kick drum, a shaker, and some instruments. And let's listen to how that sounds. Pretty cool. Not bad for just counting some numbers. The next device that I added scale awareness to is the Fibonacci Note Echo. This may have been my first Max for Live device. It uses JavaScript to make a note echo that follows the Fibonacci sequence. So let's give it a listen here. We've got 4 iterations and a single note increment scale aware. Right, so we're just walking up those 4 scale notes. Let's do note increment 2. Maybe set the iterations to a big number like 11 and change the time base to a real fast one. All right, fun. Next up, we've got Fractal Note Echo. This is almost the same implementation under the hood as Fibonacci Note Echo. I did those kind of back to back. They share a lot. Here's a fractal pattern. Let's listen to it. So this is set up three iterations of this pattern, which is a tap at an 1/8 and one at 3/8. 75% time scale between generations of the fractal. We're jumping 7 notes, so an octave in each layer. Let's listen again. And we can drop the note increment to, let's say, 2 scale degrees. Or increase iterations. Here we've got, 1 note going in is 127 notes coming out. Maybe that's fun. Okay, the last one that I undertook was the Faderboard 3. That was a big change because in the last Faderboard we had a selection of scale presets, and these were the same presets as on the original Faderboard hardware. In thinking through the scale awareness case, I decided to jettison all of the scale presets just in favor of the scale awareness. This way you get, all of the Ableton scales at your disposal. The workflow is going to be better because it's going to be following whatever the rest of your song is. So let's listen to some Faderboard. So there's more than just scale awareness in the Faderboard update here. And so right now we're scale aware, MIDI input mode, which I'll show in a minute. Our root note is D. We're doing 2 scale degrees per channel increment here. And so I'm just gonna bring up the first voice. That's playing a D3, if this G3 root is correct. And then we'll bring in the F. The A. And the C. And so we can mess with the note increment, go from 2 scale degrees to 3, or 5. One fun control that I added in this update was this Portamento. And okay, I'll take all the sound out, I'll increase the Portamento to like 2.5 seconds. And so with the sound stopped and Portamento up, as soon as you come off of silent, it needs to speed up from 0 speed, so the Portamento affects that too. I'll bring in a second one. So if I change the note increment, we'll hear that Portamento. So I'll go back to 0. So we just slid to unison mode. They're both playing a D3 now. I'll increase that to 3. Okay, that's Portamento. I mentioned earlier that I'm in MIDI mode here, and that's another addition to Faderboard 3 in this release. So let's check that out. So I'm playing this chord. I've got the Portamento set to 30 milliseconds-ish. And now I can play different MIDI notes and shift the pitch around. Or increase Portamento and have a little bit of fun. Or increase it a lot. Okay, well those are the 4 devices that I've updated with scale awareness. We've got MoireArp, Fibonacci Note Echo, Fractal Note Echo, and the ZS Faderboard 3. And so if you'd like to check them out, I'll put a link to this site in the video description. This is where you can learn about and download any of my 20+ Max for Live devices. We've got all kinds of different stuff in here. Just a little side note about this site, I put it together recently. It's essentially a GitHub aggregator. Each of these devices is in its own GitHub repo. It has its own README file, its own releases. This site just scrapes that data and aggregates it into what you see here. Okay, that's the scale awareness update. Download them, check them out. Let me know how it goes. Bye.